she made a fool of me for all of our married life, really.
Go on.
Because I've always been compassionate and caring about people, and I thought she was the same, and it transpired after a big row we had over refugees and Rwanda and stuff that she said she's always voted Conservative. And it's disgusting, really, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not disgusting to vote Conservative.
Come on.
Well, hang on. No, David, it isn't. It isn't. No,
well, it is really, isn't it?
Well, not always. No, not always. Because is it a specific element of Conservative policy currently that she was favouring that made things difficult, or was it just generally?
Well, if you look what's happened since 2010, all through austerity, which killed hundreds of thousands of people, and then everything that's happened in between, and all this time when I thought she was like me, who cares about people, then she doesn't really care about anybody but herself, maybe. And it was like it was disgusting. It's disgusting. Isn't
and
it?
Had she told you she was voting what? Do you vote Labour?
I've always voted Labour, yeah.
And did she tell you she voted Labour?
She never actually come right out and said, but we'd stood in the polling booth together and we voted together. I always assumed she voted Labour.
I'm sorry. Apologies for laughing. I'm not laughing at you, I promise, David. I'm just seeing this image of two people in the polling booth, and you just assume she was voting the same as you. But, I mean, she's allowed to vote any way she wants. You might not agree with it, but is it a reason to leave, to end your marriage?
But don't you think that's disgusting? Voting Conservative all these years. And she's pretending she's compassionate and she cares about people and this and blah, blah, blah. And everything she's always said is if she's a compassionate, caring people when she isn't.
Anyone who listens to this programme knows my view of the current incarnation of conservatism is not a favourable one. But I certainly don't think it's disgusting to vote Conservative.
Oh, honestly?
Yeah. Well, you're going to stop listening to me now, David?
Well,
we can't have a democracy in which we say you are disgusting for voting for a different political party to me. I can pick apart elements of what the Conservatives have done over the last 10 years and tell them it's disgusting. But we'll never know what Jeremy Corbyn would have done if he got into power. We don't know yet what Keir Starmer will do if he gets into power. And elements of what Tony Blair did when he was in power, lots of people think is disgusting. Lots of Labour voters think is disgusting. If you think of Iraq, for example, we can't go down the route of saying if you vote Conservative, you are disgusting.
Well, you're entitled to believe that the principles of conservatism are disgusting.
Of course you are.
You're entitled to believe that.
You are. I don't agree with you, but
I'm not ashamed to say that I care about people. I'll always vote Labour. So why should someone hide that from me all these years? It's like fox hunting, isn't it? Where they try to justify it. So she's obviously ashamed she should be voting Conservative all these years.
Well, she's probably terrified of your reaction rather than ashamed, because your reaction is to divorce her.
Well, no, actually, no. It's a mutual thing. We got divorced because obviously that can't go on, can it? You can't honestly share the rest of your life with someone who votes Conservative, can you?
Do you believe that Andrew Tate is a misogynist?
I don't think it's my place as his attorney to comment on that. I think my role in this is to see that my clients, which are both of the Tate brothers, are treated fairly under the law, that they're given due process, and that they're presumed innocent. And I think a lot of what the discussion is leaning towards is the content that they put on social media. And I think your show has put heavy emphasis on that as to maybe the influence he's having on young boys or young men. But I think it's very important that we draw a line between what people may view as speech that is offensive and what's criminal. And my role here as his attorney is to make sure that he gets a fair process, which we think in cases like this, which are high profile, oftentimes there are lots of leaks, there's misinformation out there, and this ends up being something that's tried in the court of public opinion. But I think as we discuss this, and it's important to keep that in mind, that something that he says that you may find personally offensive is not the same thing as it being illegal. And we're talking about two men who are in jail now. And to put somebody in jail, there needs to be proof of crime, not of statements that we may disagree with. And again, so I'm not here to take a position as to the content that they put out. I don't think that the content that they put out is illegal.
Even where it incites violence against women?
I don't think there's evidence that it's incited violence against women. I think it's certainly, I think a lot of people will agree that the majority of the content they put out is intended to be motivational and aspirational for young boys and young men, and even for both genders, for all people.
But you must, as clearly as a professional lawyer, you would have looked into widely the content. And you also know that the content, as well as I know, better probably, that the content includes language around as many partners as you want, having 75 women in lots of different locations working for you on sex tapes. Some of those women are reporting to lawyers and police in Romania that they have been mistreated in the process. He talks about having more than 10 children. Do you know, for example, does he have more than 10 children by different partners?
He certainly has a number of children. I'm not, again, they like keeping their private lives private for a reason. Obviously, they are controversial. They have a lot of supporters, but they also have a lot of haters. And they make it a priority to keep their private lives, especially the lives of their children, very private. And so I'm not here to confirm the specifics of that.
And of course, that's not a crime either. It's not a crime. Depending on the manner in which it's come about, of course, it's not a crime. And that's presumably what the police in Romania are trying to establish. But can I ask you, and I absolutely take your point that things that may be extremely offensive even to people reading his comments or hearing him say them himself online may not reach a criminal threshold. I take that point. But clearly there is an investigation going on in which he is being accused not just of misogyny, but of being a people trafficker, of mistreating women. It doesn't make your job any easier, does it, Tina, that there is endless footage of him from his own mouth, and Tristan as well, online, in video, on voice notes, in which he revels in hurting women and controlling women?
I think there's certainly a lot of content out there. I've seen some of it. I haven't seen, certainly I haven't seen all of the content out there, but I have seen a big difference between certain things that are snippets, headlines. And then when you actually watch, especially his long form interviews, when he explains the reasoning behind something he said.
But there is no reasoning, Tina, there is no reasoning behind encouraging somebody to throttle a woman. There is no reasoning. There is no acceptable reason behind somebody encouraging somebody to coercively control a woman.
No, but I think, again, there's, for instance, when they talk about him being a misogynist, I've certainly heard interviews where he has said he believes men and women are equal. That's not the headlines that you read about. You hear the term misogynist all the time because of, a way of thought that he has about how, men and women might be different.
Let me read you something that I made a note of from the material that I see without even looking for it now on Instagram, since I did a bit of research into him. And for that reason, I'm sure you're doing a lot more research than I have into him as his lawyer. And I would be surprised if you hadn't seen stuff of this nature. This is a man you claim to see men and women as equal. Quotes, "Females are the ultimate status symbol. People think I'm running around with these hoes, forgive me, because I like sex. That's nothing to do with the reason why I'm running around with these B word. I got these Bs just so everyone knows who the Don is. Who's got the big booty cuties with their name tattooed on them? Tate, only Tate. If I walk in a club, me and Tristan and 25, forgive me, bitches, who's the richest man in the club? Females are the ultimate status symbol amongst elite players. I go out and F and I come back to her. I don't care about her. I only love my girl. That's not cheating. That's exercise." I mean, that isn't a man
Sheila,
who's interested in women's rights, is it?
Sheila, what that sounded to me like was rap lyrics. There are endless
forget rap lyrics. It was him speaking.
But he is a
he
public
said it.
person. But this is the thing. Why are you drawing a difference between something Andrew Tate, a public persona who obviously he's come out and publicly said a lot of what he says is satire.
Yes, but
he's admitted to that.
Satire. It's
But are we
satire.
arresting rap artists
Well,
for their
Tina,
lyrics?
forgive me, but I'm not interviewing a rap artist's lawyer. I'm interviewing the lawyer of a man who is being held in extended custody in a Romanian prison on charges of people trafficking. I'm not interviewing a rapper's lawyer. I'm interviewing the lawyer of a man who frequently goes online and speaks in this way.
But that's the point. The point is right now that's not what he's jailed for, right? And so
But it
if there's a
doesn't help us to think he is a respecter of women's freedoms and rights, does it? That's all I'm asking you.
But I think there's a difference between the things he says publicly as part of his public persona and who he is as a private person.
So the school has changed the uniform in the middle of this cost of living crisis.
Yes, and not only that, I know other schools in the area as well have changed their school uniforms as well. So it's going to cost me £400 plus to just get their uniforms with shoes and things.
So what's the impact of that going to be elsewhere?
Immense. I was just explaining to your producer. Okay, they give us vouchers for the kids. Like if you're on, my partner passed away, so I know everybody's going to go, oh, single mum, she deserves it, blah blah blah. But my partner passed away. It wasn't my fault, and I had to give up my job because the grieving on my son was so bad.
Yeah. How old are your children, Claire? Can I ask you?
14 and 11.
Oh dear, and it's their dad they've lost.
Yeah, so it affected my son a lot worse. So I had to start working from home, which then led to, unfortunately, not being okay, because my boss was like, well, we really need you here. Now on universal credit, everything like that. It is going to impact a lot because you had to cut back on so much already. Like he used to do football, she used to do gymnastics. I've stopped those because that was too much money going out. I've had to move to pay-as-you-go meters, which is actually more expensive. So I'm on £3.74 of emergency gas right now, and I've got to make that last till Friday. We don't buy the fresh stuff anymore, or if we do, it's a treat in our house. My son the other day broke my heart because he goes, Mum, should I just sell my Xbox?
Oh.
Why would my 14-year-old boy say that?
And after the loss he's had. And have you got some help with the grief at all, Claire?
Yes. We've had Winston Wishes, who are a brilliant charity.
I was literally writing their name down because to get my producer to tell you about them, but we don't need to. You're there. That's good.
And we've got Crisis, and also, to be fair, their schools have been absolutely amazing.
Apart from the uniform.
Apart from the uniforms.
But it's good that they've been kind.
And things like that. But no, I just want people to know that, you know, like, we are trying, and, you know, we do parks, but obviously the weather's been so dire lately. But we have been trying, and there are things you can do. I think there's some free things. It's just the travel. Natural History Museum's free, Science Museum's free.
That's good, isn't it? Yeah.
But
you've got to travel there. And
but it is hard, because if you're trying to feed them, especially if you, I mean, I don't know if anybody else is out there with teenagers, especially a boy, my God, they've got hollow legs, they don't stop. So, and you do get food vouchers. So they both got £90, which is a lot of money, £180. But to make £180 last over the 6 weeks for them, and I know it probably sounds very ungrateful, and it's not, it really, really isn't.
No, but it goes quickly.
Cost of living and everything.
Yeah.
If you're trying to give them fresh fruit,
and so
vegetables.
your family, your little family there in your unit, you've lost two incomes essentially, as well as the emotional loss of your partner.
Yes. And, you know, it just makes you feel so rock bottom, because you were doing so well. You're all doing so well. And I thought I was holding it together so well. Wow. And then it just all... And now we're in this state, and I don't know how I've let it come to this. But it's just like, you go to the other day I went to the supermarket. I think I bought about 6 items. Nothing. I think it was a pack of chicken, loaf of bread, some milk, some crisps for them to have, because we were going to have like a DVD night. And it came to like nearly £30.
Yeah.
And like, I don't smoke, I don't drink, but everything, it's just like, as the woman said, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, because you literally get it in one hand and you throw it out the other. But this school uniform nonsense, why are schools doing this?
Have you spoken to the school about that cost?
I have spoken to the school.
Yeah. What did they say?
And they said, what you can do is you can go to a second-hand uniform bank, But because the uniform is brand new, there are no school uniforms in the secondary. All they have is this old black uniform.
Because we used to have that in our school. We had I can't remember what they call the room now, but it was essentially a very large storage room that had like proper clothes rails in it. And you could just go and if you wanted to choose a new blazer or whatever. But they did it so well, I always thought, in the school, because it was never about, if you're poor, go here. You know, they never did that. They made it very much, look, kids grow all the time. You're not going to be buying a blazer every year. Go and get one. But it was so that those who were in difficulty, financial difficulty, could easily go into that room, because people who weren't in financial difficulty also went into it. You know?
I remember, though, that they used to be able to just buy the badge. So then you could go to a shop and buy a blazer and just iron the badge on. That was my brother.
Exactly, yeah.
And you used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You can't even do that now, because they've made a uniform so specialised with the special tie, the special colour it is now, with the little pattern around the edging of the lapel, the sun, everything like that. So there is no possibility of you even being able to go and buy, I don't know, a £15 blazer from Marks and Sparks, as an example, and a badge for £3.50. You can't do that now. It's now going to cost me £47 for the boy, £37 for the girl, just for their blazers.
When you were Chief Constable of Gloucestershire Police, if an officer was accused of misconduct towards a fellow officer, female or otherwise, or domestic abuse, what did you do? What happened?
Well, there was an assessment and I actually dealt with this as a deputy chief constable. That's the role of, or one of the many roles that a deputy chief constable has, is to make the initial assessment in cases such as this. You have to make.
What did you assess?
You have to make an assessment on the seriousness of the allegation, the strength of the evidence, and you've got to be fair to the individual against whom the allegation has been made, because it is not unknown for false or exaggerated allegations to be made against police officers. So you have to balance the evidence. And there is a crucial question.
So you wouldn't be in favour, would you, of automatic
There is a
suspension?
Crucial question. There is a crucial question to be asked, which is there a safe alternative duty for this officer to perform? Those are the regulations. Those are the steps you go through.
Right, so you wouldn't be in favour of automatic suspension if somebody's accused of sexual misconduct or domestic violence in the force?
I think that would amount to a fundamental denial of natural rights.
Well, teachers are suspended if they're accused of harming a child.
I think you've asked me my opinion. I've just given it.
So you didn't quite say no, so it's a no, is it?
I said it would be a fundamental denial of natural rights. That's my answer.
And if a teacher is accused of sexual abuse of a child, they should stay in school?
You have to talk to education specialists about that. And that's a different matter from the one that you've just raised with me. I've given you a perfectly clear answer. You don't have to accept it, but there it is.
I accept it. I'm just challenging it a little bit. So you don't seem, given what we just heard about the Met, you don't seem to think that an allegation against a male officer is serious enough. Just an allegation of misconduct made by another colleague.
You can manufacture something out of the words I've used. You've heard.
I'm not. I'm genuinely not. You're very suspicious of me. I'm genuinely not.
You can keep restating it in another way. I actually prefer the version of the answer that I gave to you, and there it stands.
It's just a long time since I've interviewed such a bad-tempered man.
I'm not bad-tempered at all, but you've tried to interrupt me several times.
I'm trying to have a conversation with you.
You've tried to interrupt me several times, as you've just done again. And then you've actually tried to manufacture a form of words that are not the words I've used.
All right.
Sorry,
well,
I'm sorry you interpret challenge to your style of interviewing as bad-tempered. But maybe we've come to the end of the interview. That's up to you.
Oh, it is up to me. But if you've got anything else to say, do feel free to carry on.
No, I've answered your questions. You don't like the answers I've given. I'm sorry about that.
I'm a landlord. I'm a mortgage broker, and I'm a homeowner as well with my own residential mortgage. And I'm sort of calling off the back of a previous call. I think the lady's name was Mo. Now, it almost infuriated me when she said that landlords need to get a second job, or that it shouldn't be on the tenants to repay our mortgage. Now, as a homeowner, my own mortgage is set to go up by about £800 a month when the current deal ends. As a mortgage broker, I'm working till midnight, trying my best to submit applications, secure people rates when lenders are withdrawing or the rates are going up. And I speak to many of my clients who are landlords who want to hang on to the property, who are fair. I'd say most of the landlords I know who are reasonable, they're fair, they want to keep rents down, but just can't afford to because the buy-to-let mortgage rates are so high that it actually means that landlords are going to have to spend out of their own pockets to cover the mortgage. And I think it's really unfair to say that landlords should get another job to
Well, I think,
cover it.
to be fair to the second caller, I think that was just in response to the previous caller, Sabrina, saying that she might have to get a second job.
Yeah. No, and I understand that, but a lot of landlords do everything they can. Now, as a landlord, we kept our rent very low for a long time.
What are you a landlord of? A former property of yours or a...
buy-to-let properties too. Now, we sold one of them last year just because with stress testing and the rates increasing, it would have meant that we would be paying for the mortgage in that buy-to-let property. So we just couldn't afford to do that, not with the increase on the other buy-to-let and our residential. Now, we are looking at remortgaging our other buy-to-let, so now we have one, and the rates are so high, there is absolutely no profit in it. We're going to have to put that property on the market. Now, a lot of my landlord clients are selling off their properties, so obviously as landlords we provide a service, and those landlords are selling off their properties, meaning there's going to be less in the market for people to rent, increasing rents effectively.
Yeah, but again, we don't know who's buying them, do we? Somebody who has been waiting to buy but couldn't find the right place might be able to buy now if a buy-to-let landlord with 2, 3, 4, 5 or however many properties lets go of them or some of them.
But it would bring property prices down, being more properties in the market to buy. But because the mortgage rates are so high for, say, first-time buyers and the deposits they need, and because of the way lenders look at affordability on how much they can borrow, they're struggling to borrow enough to buy the property potentially at a reduced value anyway. So
but we need to do something about. I mean, it won't be news to you, Kate, that the term buy-to-let is, those 3 words are dirty words to some people these days.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. But as landlords, we don't make any profit, and if we do, we pay tax on it. So.
The idea, presumably, to go through the bother of doing buy-to-let is that you make the profit at the end on the value of the house.
Increase in the value of the property, over time. But obviously, if we can't afford to pay the mortgage on the rent, we can't hang on to it. It's as simple as that. Because if our own residential mortgages are going up, our buy-to-let mortgages are going up, and our income doesn't support all of those mortgages, even with the rent coming in. It's impossible to hang on to that property for 25, 30 years for potential retirement plan. So,
well, Kate, stay with me. I'll just put your line down for a second, but stay with me, and you might want to respond to something Duncan says. Duncan has called from Reigate. You want to talk about buy-to-let. It's coming through a lot every time we talk about mortgages and rents, not surprisingly. Go on, Duncan.
Yeah, hi, Sheila. I'm afraid my heart does not bleed for these buy-to-let landlords at all. The whole reason why property has gone bananas in this country, and my daughter can't afford to buy a property herself, is that these buy-to-let landlords have bought up all the properties, creating an overheated market. They're using property as a business, not somewhere to live. So what they've got to accept when times aren't good is that their business might lose money. Now, excuse me, if those properties go back onto the market, which I hope they all do, prices will drop, and then people like my daughter and my son will be able to afford a property instead of having to pay outrageous rents.
You say the whole reason that the property market is in the state it is because of buy-to-let. Is that not an exaggeration?
It is an exaggeration, yeah. There aren't enough houses built either, and there isn't enough social housing. So, yes, you're right. But at the same time, the whole property market in this country for years has been treated as a business and not as I buy somewhere to live in it. So I have no sympathy at all.
All right, well, let Kate respond to what you said. Kate, no sympathy at all.
Obviously I hear that quite a lot, and I do understand, but obviously, I mean, for a lot of people who do have money to invest or want to have a pension in the future, where else are they supposed to put that money?
This is very, very, very poor value for money off Rishi Sunak's crowd. And I could do better than this. If these people come over here and misbehave and commit crime, how do we know who they are?
What if they come over here and just need somewhere safer to live, and they do well here and thrive and get a job and pay their taxes, which is indeed what most immigrants do when they come here?
I think they should stay where they are and do something to improve their own country instead of travelling anywhere in the world that they can get away with living in. Want to sort their own problems out, not come here and bring them with them.
Would you stay in a country where your daughter couldn't go to school, or where your wife would be murdered if she had a job?
Can't imagine that. That's a question I'd have to think about for a long, long time.
Really?
But I would have tried to do something about the problems rather than just running away from them.
What would you do about that?
I'd form a political party and stand on a box and tell everybody what I was going to do and make them listen.
And they shoot you as well.
They'd shoot me as well. Well, some things, people have to be prepared to die to improve things in some places, don't they? And a lot of people do. They don't just run away from the problems. That's the coward's way out.
Oh, dear. Do you honestly think that, Phil? Do you honestly think that if after 20 years, and let me focus on Afghanistan and women in Afghanistan, and some men as well in Afghanistan, if after, more than 20 years, four decades of international interference in your country, if after 2 decades of some improvements which allowed you as a woman or a girl to get an education or to get a job, if at the end of that the old enemy walks right back in and tells you you cannot leave your house unaccompanied, you cannot go to a park, you cannot work, you cannot enter politics, if you are told that at pain of death, then to wish to leave that country makes you a coward, does it?
Some people it would.
Which people?
Yes.
Which people?
Young men who need to do something about it, to stand up. I've been to Afghanistan on a number of occasions, and it can be a very depressing place. They were a very happy country at one time. I remember it being very happy, very jolly place. You go to Pakistan or you go to Iran, they're depressing places. But Afghanistan was doing okay. But we all know what the problem is in Afghanistan, but we can't talk about it, can we?
What is it?
It's religion, isn't it?
All right, Phil. It's religion, isn't it?
When I hear this kind of criticism of conservatism as if it's kind of evil, and I sort of scratch my head.
No, that's not what we're saying.
That's what it sounds like very much to me.
Oh, and it's not at all. Not at all. This conference has called it, the organisers of it have called themselves the National Conservatism Conference. So we're talking about that brand of conservatism that they are clearly trying to shape and put in front of the public. I've just interviewed Dominic Grieve earlier on, a long-established Conservative MP, well-respected in politics, well-respected by me. I said at the very beginning that some of what was being said in the conference about the importance of family, the importance of faith, and the importance of hard work and all of those things, and being law-abiding, I agree with all of that. Nobody could disagree with that if they were a sensible person. So that's all of that is absolutely in keeping with one nation conservatism. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
that's not being attacked. What's being attacked is extreme language.
Yeah, but what they're trying to conservatism. They're trying to conserve, like the nation. They're trying to conserve our values. They're trying to conserve our identity. And to me, it's like there is like a Marxist agenda at the moment which wants to destroy. Me? Well, I'm saying generally speaking, there seems to be like a kind of globalist Marxist agenda, and to some extent it is
globalist Marxist agenda.
Yeah, they're like to destroy countries.
To do what?
Well, to destroy countries,
How?
to destroy religion.
Well,
really? There's mass migration is destroying basically like nations' fates. They want
Is it?
Yeah,
How
it's
is
like because
do you mean the colour of those nations, or what do you mean?
Look, if you don't have border controls, then you don't have a nation state. A nation state without a border
we do, and
is
we
a
always
nation state that doesn't exist.
Brendan, we do have control over our borders to a degree, and we're an island, so clearly people breach those borders for all kinds of reasons sometimes, and we deal with that. But we do have control, and we are a nation state.
Yeah, we're a nation state, but there's always this constant pressure, to have, it seems to me, mass migration, and also the destruction of religion. The abolition of religion. This is another Marxist.
Which religion is being abolished?
Religion is being attacked through. Basically, we've got things like gay marriage, which are anti-Christian. The religion of this country is Christianity. Has been for thousands of years. Well, over 1,000 years. So we got gay marriage. We got abortion, which is against the Christian religion. We got transgenderism.
Has abortion been discussed in this conference? I don't know.
It probably is. It probably isn't, as far as I know. But that is a thing again, which is causing massive
and just remind me, the on abortion, what is it? It is a Marxist globalist conspiracy that's forcing abortion on us. Not, for example, active campaigning by women in particular over decades in this country to get what they regard as their medical right to an abortion.
Well, Marxism doesn't just work through, some kind of people invading the country. It works through changing the laws to basically bring in a kind of nihilistic attitude towards religion, human life.
When you
read a Marxist manifesto, it's basically about abolishing everything. Abolish property, abolish religion, abolish the family.
And who are the Marxists in this country then? Who are they in leading political positions? Who are they?
It's basically, at the moment, it seems to be almost like every party has been tainted, been corrupted with Marxist ideology.
Has it?
And that is what I think. Yeah, I mean, even the Conservative Party, they support pretty much, nearly all of them, abortion, gay marriage, transgenderism.
Right. So, Brendan, can I ask you?
We don't have a Conservative Party anymore.
Can I ask you? Do you? Are you against? It sounds like you're against same-sex marriage. You're against any abortion at all. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah.
Okay. For Christian reasons.
Bad.
For Christian reasons, you have those views, yeah?
Well, because it's moral. You don't have to be a Christian to think that.
No, I'm just curious. I'm trying to find out about you. That's all.
Yeah,
Christian. Okay. And do you campaign? Because you obviously live in a free country where you can be politically active and campaign. Do you campaign about it?
Well, I support organisations which are against abortion. Yeah.
Right. So.
Whenever the situation comes up, I try to defend, the right to life of innocent children in the womb.
Yeah, and this conference is trying to achieve what on those fronts that you've talked about? Bring them to the fore, or there's been an awful lot of talk about foreigners in this conference, hasn't there?
Well, yeah,
not so much about abortion.
I haven't heard everything in this conference, but basically, from what I can see, it's like it's the conservative instinct. Our true good values are basically being watered down by a kind of culture, a Marxist culture, and it's not only in our culture. Even all the businesses are pushing it. You can't go. I can't go to the bank to the bank without seeing gay pride being promoted by the bank. It's like they're just everything's trying to destroy.
Well, you live in a pluralistic democracy, Brendan, and we're all fighting for space and we're all able to say out loud what we think. Nobody's stopping you. I clearly didn't stop you from saying what you wanted to say, nor would I. That's what a pluralistic democracy looks like. It's not, it's not a little tea party where everybody agrees. And this country's never been a tea party where everybody agrees. How does the Conservative Party have a hope after 13 years of convincing people that their money the economy, their future, their thriving is safe in your hands when it comes to the next election?
What I'd say on the economy is that first of all, let's look at what the OBR's overall picture was, and that is that growth will be higher overall over the period than it was in its previous prediction. But I think one of the key things as well is let's look back what's happened over the last year or so, and that we were told by a lot of the international organisations, the IMF, the OECD, all these acronyms that people talk about, that the UK economy were going to recession. Actually, we've overperformed significantly. Overperformed that, and we've done that over a number of years now. A number of predictions we've overperformed, but even in their predictions going forwards, the OBR's predictions over the term, we'll actually see higher growth than we'd had previously. But that's why those big reforms that I talked about in terms of that long-term plan, those real changes in how we encourage business to invest for the long term, those are really important, because the only way we're going to drive productivity over the longer term is by making those changes that the Chancellor announced today. That's 110 individual changes, but some of them, like the one on being able to write down capital investment, is incredibly important to that plan. Another was around how we ensure that we have one of the best schemes in the world to get external investors into the UK as well. So I think those are really important, and so I think you whether it's personal taxation, whether that's for the self-employed people, we've seen a reduction there in self-employed tax in terms of national insurance, or whether it's people in work, we've seen a reduction there. Whether it's pensioners who are seeing a good rise, and whether it's that long-term plan. I think on all areas the Chancellor's really laid out a positive package for the country today. I think there's it's so important that when we're looking at the economy, we do take proper long-term decisions, because we know what happens if you don't. We saw it when we came into office. And one of those interesting things announced today as well was the fact that he's going to look at that final NatWest share sale. It was that financial crisis back in 2008, and after Gordon Brown said he'd abolished boom and bust, that meant we had to nationalise.
You're not blaming Gordon Brown for everything, are you? Are you really?
I'm not blaming him for everything. I mean,
not everything.
Not responsible for war in the Middle East.
But
he is. Yeah. But it was very. That when we nationalised.
Oh, you're making yourself look silly now. Come on, bringing Gordon Brown into this.
No, just. Sheila, I mean, this is a really important point. You might have missed this from the budget, but we're going to sell the NatWest. That was bought at the height of the financial crisis.
I'm in favour of Sue Bredeman standing up for the people of Great Britain and putting the people of Great Britain first. We know that these illegal migrants cost us £8 million a day.
Well, hang on, Mervyn. There's a difference between illegal immigration and the seeking of asylum. Okay, do you understand the difference?
Yeah, and that's what you're talking about.
I'm talking about seekers. I'm talking about people seeking asylum. You have brought illegal immigration into it. But anyway, let's carry on.
And what I'm talking about is the 1,000 people a day overrunning the country and costing £8 million in hotel bills. We've got terrible roads.
Overrunning the country. Nobody's overrunning the country, Mervyn. The reason there is the heavy need for hotels is because of the asylum backlog, which has been caused by an inept system, an inadequate system in the Home Office that Suella Braverman herself has spoken about, that the whole system is broken. Now, that doesn't mean she can't have a conversation. Of course she is, and you, of course, are allowed a conversation about what we do about it. But please do it within the confines of the truth and the right language about who you're talking about. The people that you're talking about, the vast majority of them, when they get through the slowest asylum system in history, get asylum, Mervyn. So you're just throwing in words like illegal and overrunning. And I'm just not going to carry on having a conversation with you, Mervyn, because nobody's overrunning the country. Nobody is overrunning the country. It's just not the case. It's not the case. And we have much larger legal immigration into this country than we had when we were members of the European Union because of a political choice and need. That's political choices being made by this government and a need for people, because we've cut ties and reduced the fluidity of ties with our nearest neighbours. That's why. This isn't about an invasion. It's, oh, God. Thank you, Mervyn, for trying, but I'm not going to bother.
I mean, there's a lot of cry, moan, but some of these people are ordering shopping from Ocado every 5 days. They've got plenty of cigarettes and drink to be buying. I mean, they're buying a skirt for £37. Where the hell are they buying it from? Dorothy Perkins? I mean, I'm a landlord of 7 properties, and I can happily say I've just kicked 2 single mothers out because they haven't paid the rent in 3 months. Well, if they worked a bit harder, did a few more hours, then they'd have been okay. And if they put down certain expenses.
I don't know.
Like, end of the day, I was clearing out one of the houses where the bailiffs
live
just
one here, ladies and gentlemen.
kicked her out.
Yeah.
McDonald's, empty McDonald's here, there and everywhere. Where's the sense in these people? They've never had it so good under Sunak. Never had it so good.
Yeah. Are you a comedian?
No.
Oh, just wondered.
I'm being serious. They've never had it so good. Why are they buying these branded foods for? Oh, I want to go on holiday. Oh, I want a new settee. Why don't look in charity shop?
Anything else?
Well, what are they going to do? Are they going to moan or are they going to help themselves? Because I've got no problem with kicking single mothers out that can't get the boots together and you know, man up a bit, should I say.
Right, and you're basing these comments on your own experience of particular individuals, are you?
Yes, I am. And I'm not just got quite tenants that are from working class background. I've got middle class background, and it's a bit this so-called cost of living crisis, but they won't shop anywhere different. They won't do anything. I mean, they're moaning about a £37 skirt. Well, they're not that amount. That won't cost that much on Tesco.
But are you?
Why don't they have a look around?
Are you prepared to accept that? You know, I don't know these people you're talking about, so I'll take on faith what you're saying about those individuals. But are you prepared to listen to even just some of the people who've called this afternoon to describe their own situation?
Yes, I have listened. In fact, I've listened to my tenants before, and I've gone through with the bills, and I've said, look, you know, if you go to this shop rather than that shop, you're getting the same products, but you're saving £200 a month. At the end of the day, I charge fair rent, actually. It's up in Rotherham. I've got 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom properties, and I average them about £300 and £400 a month. And that is quite low, to be fair. And I've helped them out, and I've let them off the rent before. But it's the same old, take, and give nothing back.
In these individual cases that you know about?
Yeah. So why? I don't think they've got the mentorship anymore from the older generation to budget, to find out where the money's going. I mean, it's okay having these.
But if I tell
Netflix,
you that wages have not kept pace at all with inflation over the years, not even these high levels of inflation, but that we have become a lower wage economy. It's starting to shift, but for years now it's been a low wage economy. Then you've had cases like Claire, who rang in, where life event after life event after life event has placed her into a very difficult set of circumstances. Are you prepared to accept that some very hard things have been happening to people?
Yeah, but the system's broken as well, because at the end of the day, when this hardship happens in life, there's nothing to fall back on, to be fair on them. So I think it's sometimes, yeah, you're right, it's 50-50, but the system doesn't help. It doesn't insure anybody.
I could lose my home if I can't pay my mortgage. Now, I'm going to have to apply for universal credit. It's going to take at least 6-7 weeks for it to come through. This government haven't got a clue. I want Rishi Sunak to knock on my door with Jeremy Hunt and to see how many tablets my poor husband has to take a day. My blood pressure has gone sky high. I'm going to be placed on medication very likely, as I've had a 24-hour monitor. They are cut off in the real world. Come and see how I live, because I will have to struggle and fight to get a social rented home. And the most they'll probably give us is a 1-bed. When I have behavioural issues, autism and ADHD, I have regular meltdowns, I will probably need a 2-bed home. Now, I'm not greedy. I've done everything right. Got married, we bought our own home and everything else. It's not our fault that life has given me, my husband now, my late first husband who sadly died, a kick up the arse. And it is wrong. You've got all these fat directors on these big fat salaries and big fat pension pots.
So you say what, Elizabeth? Come and see. You don't believe they understand how the real world is.
No, they don't understand.
On the same day that Number 10 puts out a big poster online saying Britain is still an open and tolerant country, the deputy leader of the Conservative Party uses the kind of language a racist yob would shout across the street to someone. That's not exaggeration, that's just fact, what I've just described. And I'm not going to keep saying what he said. The deputy vice chairman of the Labour Party, of the Conservative Party, has just used the language of a racist yob in the street. I don't actually believe his comments are particularly racist inherently, but it is the kind of language that a racist yob would use in the street. They're rabble-rousing, they're very ugly, they're deeply unprofessional. They're all of those things. But I think nothing will happen. I think nothing will happen. And we went months and months and months and months and months with Boris Johnson openly lying to Parliament and outside Parliament, and nothing happened. And then it eventually happened. But are we going to have to wait, another year? And just accept quietly, calmly, and try not to get depressed while we have a government that just turns a deaf ear and a blind eye to that kind of behaviour, that kind of language, and the damage that it does, the permission it gives to other people. Do you remember that speech that Meryl Streep made about Donald Trump when she said the office he holds should preclude him from saying any of the things he was saying about when he was mocking disabled people and being racist and goading Mexicans and, you name it, he did it all. And she rightly made the point that sends a message to other people that it's acceptable. And so does this. So does this dreadful comment from Lee Anderson. I mean, you know it. You know it. Any adult knows it. And yet I think Rishi Sunak will do nothing. And I think that tells me all of them, top to bottom, unfit for office. What does it tell you if nothing happens? Chris in Richmond. Hello, Chris.
Hello, this is quite a personal thing. I feel quite upset about it, to be honest.
I do.
I mean, yesterday my wife becomes a British citizen. I've got a French friend who was kicked in the head in November 16 and told to F off back to France. He was in hospital for hours and he couldn't work for 2 weeks. What has this country become? I just can't fathom it. I'm sorry, I'm emotional, but I am disgusted by this.
I'm disgusted by it too.
Disgusted. I'm sorry, but
don't say sorry. Your response is normal, Chris. It is appalling.
What about the people in poverty when we've got someone who's harnessing nearly £2 billion of wealth?
Well, I've answered that. I've answered that. Tom, I've answered that. In every single instance of monarchy in this country for hundreds and hundreds of years, people have lived in poverty. People have lived in ill health. It's not good. It's nothing to be celebrated. I'm saying that you sound very anti-monarchy, and that's okay.
Your response to this, though, and I've just been listening to your show. You've been defending these people out in the streets, celebrating it, smiles on their faces.
Why should I? I don't need to defend.
And lovely.
Hang on. You're getting very narky about this, Tom. You began by saying you're not anti-royalist, anti-monarchist. Are you sure? I mean, it's perfectly okay to be, but you sound like you are. And I don't need to defend people who've gone down to the Mall on a big national occasion to enjoy it and soak up some atmosphere. Good luck to them. I don't need to defend them. What harm are they doing to anybody?
Sheila, that's what you're getting paid for. You're literally getting paid today to talk positively about these people. And yes, it's your opinion. You're still getting paid for it.
Tom,
you're not getting paid today.
I am getting paid today, and I'm getting paid tomorrow.
Exactly.
And tomorrow,
in my
Lord
job,
above, narky knickers.
Well, if you want to respond to me with personal insults,
well, it
clearly shows that you're not very good at it.
You're, Lord, you don't hear how insulting you've just been to me, assuming that I am some kind of lackey here. when I'm not a lackey here. I invited you to discuss your anti-monarchist views, which you clearly hold. And every time I point to that to give you space to do so, you accuse me of being some kind of royal apologist, which I'm not. Nobody's telling me what to do. Nobody's telling me how to present the programme. Nobody's telling me I must say how marvellous King Charles is, because I'm not saying how marvellous King Charles is. I'm looking at the event and the history and the recent events of the loss of the Queen, trying to put it into some context and have a conversation with people about it. You can say whatever you like about them, Tom.
Well, thank you, yeah, and so can you.
Yeah, however, and I do.
However, you've got to be able to accept the criticism.
Which is? Which criticism?
Well, the fact you're talking about people going out and really making this a big thing.
Well, they are.
And actually, when we could change this and something could happen where maybe, maybe there is still a figure like the king, but can't they maybe allow some distribution of wealth to the people, things like that? And yes, you'll come back and say, well, they do. But clearly not if he's harnessing nearly £2 billion.
I'm now 43 this year, and I'm actually going to be selling my house and moving back in with my parents. So it's quite a difficult decision, really. But it's due to the cost of living. I'm finding that I was just working all hours and being quite stressed out from work and actually not having the time to even enjoy living in my home. My mum and dad are on a variable rate mortgage, so theirs has been going up. And this morning when I heard that it gone up again, my instant thought was about their affordability. So actually for both of myself and my parents, the best idea for us is if I move in with them and we all pay a mortgage together. I don't have to work all hours and try and look after a house at the same time without getting any time for myself.
So it takes a bit of pressure off both of you, all of you. And remind me, your own home, do you own it or were you renting it, did you say?
Own it, yeah.
You own it. So you'll sell that, will you?
Yes, and the thought of like not having a mortgage and being able to get one again is quite scary. But at the same time, I've only got one life and, we need to live it. And I just feel like I'm not living. I'm just surviving. I'm working and paying the bills. And then, my mum and dad are struggling as well. But I wouldn't have been able to. I've got lots of options, so I feel really lucky. But I wouldn't have been able to buy a house in the first place if it hadn't been for my mum and dad. They gave both me and my brother deposit to buy our houses.
Yeah. And you'll have some equity from that, won't you, to underpin things?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that pressurised, is it, work at the moment, just working to stand still, really?
So stressful in my particular job that I've been doing, and to the point it's made me quite unwell physically, mentally. And I didn't really I feel like I had a choice but to stop working there. And
can I ask what line of work you're in? I mean, you don't need to give me any detail particularly.
No, it was in health and social care.
Right, okay. Say no more.
No,
about pressure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gosh.
So, so it's a really hard decision. But even when you actually do finally own a house, I just think it's important to say, I mean, I do live on my own. It's just me, but it's incredibly difficult maintaining a house, being able to upkeep it, get work. I mean, in Bristol, it's really, there's a lot of building work going on and I can't even get a builder in to do any work. And if I do, they walk off the job halfway through. So my house has been left sort of unfinished for sort of 7 years now. And I've just kind of run out of steam. I've run out of energy and mentally I can't do it anymore either. So
and it sounds like this hopefully will give you just some breathing space so that you can then make a decision about, the next 10, 15 years,
Yeah, I just need all the pressure to be taken off that I'm going through at the moment. And obviously I do worry about my mum and dad. And her house needs a lot of work as well, which I want to help them with.
But it sounds like you get along with them and you respect them and like them, which isn't always the case with parents, is it?
No, it isn't. And obviously that is a worry, moving back in with them. But, part of the idea is that, perhaps I could get you can get these little holiday lets, and have a sort of what they call a bolt hole.
Yeah.
So, and they're kind of a fraction of the price of a house. They come with some restrictions, but... Yeah. it would actually enable me to even do a part-time job for a while, just take a break. I worked all through COVID, so I think,
do you know what, Rachel? Whatever, it sounds like you do need that break, and whatever all of the choices that you have. I mean, the ideal one would be to feel well and afford your own place and stay in it. Of course it would. But if that's not the case, then I think you're doing all the right things. Do what makes you safer and healthier.
Yes, and quite a few people have said that to me.
And the future will deal with itself, all in good time.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you. Yeah, because it makes me feel like I often feel like if I've made the right decision or not. So, yeah.
I think it sounds like you have, I mean, sometimes the right decision isn't the one you would naturally always choose for yourself, but it can still be the right one for now.